I'm 44 years old. Been an electrician for the past 18 years here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's not fancy work, but it's steady. Good money, honest living. By the time I hit 28, I had saved enough to buy a modest 4-bedroom ranch house in Glendale, complete with a 2-car garage and a backyard perfect for barbecues. My buddy Jake and I had started our own electrical contracting business, and we were doing pretty well for ourselves. When I was 30, I met Rebecca at my nephew's birthday party. She was 26, recently divorced, and had a 7-year-old son named Tyler. Her ex-husband Derek was a piece of work, left when Tyler was 4, moved to California, and only called on Christmas and birthdays if he remembered. Rebecca was struggling, working 2 jobs, mornings at a medical clinic and evenings cleaning office buildings. Her beat-up Nissan Sentra had more miles on it than a cross-country trucker. I remember Tyler the first time we were introduced. He was hiding behind the couch, clutching a worn-out Batman action figure, peeking at me with these huge green eyes. Rebecca crouched down next to him, her voice gentle. "Tyler, honey, this is Marcus. He's Mommy's friend." Tyler just shook his head and pressed himself further into the couch cushions. "I don't like strangers," he whispered. "That's okay, buddy," I said, getting down to his level. "Batman's pretty cool. Is that your favorite superhero?" He nodded slightly, still wary but curious enough to hold up the action figure. "His cape is broken," he said sadly. "Well," I grinned, "good thing I know how to fix things. That's my job." A few months into dating Rebecca, something happened that changed everything. She was pulling a double shift at the clinic, and Tyler fell off his skateboard at school, splitting his lip pretty badly. The school nurse called me. I was confused at first. Why would they call me? But when I got there, the secretary explained that Rebecca had added me as Tyler's emergency contact the week before. That hit me harder than I expected. I drove over with my heart racing, and when I walked into the nurse's office, there he was, Tyler, sitting on the examination table, bottom lip swollen and bloody, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Hey there, tough guy," I said, grabbing some tissues from the counter. "Looks like that skateboard got the better of you." He sniffled. "It really hurts, Marcus." "I bet it does," I said, dabbing gently at his lip. "But you know what? Superheroes get hurt all the time, and they always heal up stronger. Just like Batman." Tyler looked up at me through his tears, and then something shifted in his expression. Will you stay with me until Mommy gets here?" "Of course I will," I said, pulling a chair up next to the examination table. "Want me to tell you about the time I accidentally electrocuted myself rewiring Mrs. Peterson's kitchen?" He giggled despite his pain. "Really?" As I spun the tale, making it funnier than it actually was, Tyler gradually relaxed. When the nurse came back with an ice pack, he reached for my hand and held it tight. "Marcus," he said quietly. "Yeah, buddy? Are you going to be my new dad?" The question hit me like a bolt of lightning. I looked down at this kid, this brave, sweet kid who'd been abandoned by his real father, and something clicked into place inside my chest. "Would you like that?" I asked carefully. Tyler nodded eagerly. "Mommy says you're the nicest man she's ever met, and you fix things, just like dads are supposed to." When Rebecca finally arrived, frantic and apologetic, Tyler announced proudly, "Marcus is going to be my new dad, Mommy." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears as she looked at me over Tyler's head. "Is that okay with you?" She mouthed silently. I nodded, and that was it. From that moment on, Tyler was mine. We got married when Tyler was 9. He insisted on being the ring bearer, standing up straight and proud in his little black suit. "This is the best day ever," he declared during the reception, and I couldn't have agreed more. Those early years were incredible. Sunday mornings became our tradition. Tyler and I would hit up Denny's for chocolate chip pancakes, then head to Lowe's to pick up supplies for whatever project we dreamed up that week. "Dad, can we build a fort in the backyard?" he'd ask, eyes shining with possibility. "Sure thing, kiddo," I'd respond. "Might look more like a lopsided shed when we're done, but we'll call it Fort Tyler." He'd laugh and grab my hand, chattering excitedly about design plans as we walked through the store. When Tyler turned 10, I started a college savings account, putting away $300 every month religiously. By his 13th birthday, he had nearly $20,000 waiting for him. My coworkers used to joke that I was a saint for taking on another man's responsibilities, but I never saw it that way. Tyler wasn't a burden. He was my son, plain and simple. But then high school started and everything began to change. At first it was typical teenage stuff, grunting responses, spending hours locked in his room gaming, acting like spending time with his parents was torture. Rebecca and I figured it was just a phase. All kids go through it, right? But then Tyler stopped calling me dad. The first time it happened, we were in the kitchen. I was making breakfast, and Tyler wandered in, still half asleep. "Marcus, can you drive me to school today?" he asked casually, not even looking up from his phone. I froze, spatula halfway to the pan. "What did you call me?" He shrugged. "Marcus, that's your name, isn't it?" "I'm your dad," I said quietly, my chest tightening. "You've called me dad for years." "Whatever," Tyler mumbled. "Can you drive me or not?" It got worse from there. Soon, everything I did for him wasn't enough. The Nike shoes I bought him weren't the right style. The iPhone I saved up for was the wrong color. His friends all had gaming laptops, so why was he stuck with an old desktop? And every time I tried to set boundaries, Rebecca would undermine me. He's just figuring himself out, she'd say whenever I brought up Tyler's behavior. Don't take it so personally. But I was keeping track of what figuring himself out was costing us. Between clothes, electronics, gas money, insurance, medical bills, and everyday expenses, Tyler was costing me over $800 a month. And in return, I got attitude, disrespect, and the constant feeling that I was nothing more than an ATM with legs. The breaking point came on Tyler's 16th birthday. I had saved for months to buy him a reliable Ford Focus, certified pre-owned, low mileage, perfect for a teenager. I even had it detailed and tied a big red bow on the hood. When he saw it in the driveway, his face fell. Seriously? A Focus? He sneered like I'd handed him garbage. Brandon's stepdad got him a Mustang. This is embarrassing. I fought to keep my voice level. Tyler, this is a good car. It's safe, reliable, and completely paid for. You should be grateful. He crossed his arms and glared at me. My real dad would have gotten me something better. The words hit like a physical blow. I stared at him, struggling to process what he just said. Your real dad? I managed. You mean the guy who hasn't called you in 2 years? The one who couldn't even be bothered to send you a birthday card? Tyler just rolled his eyes like the truth was irrelevant. But the final straw, the moment that destroyed everything, happened at our annual 4th of July barbecue. We had friends and neighbors over, everyone enjoying good food and conversation on the back patio. The topic turned to college planning, and I mentioned proudly that Tyler had enough in his college fund to cover 4 years at Arizona State. That's when Tyler appeared from inside the house, earbuds dangling around his neck. Actually, he announced loudly, I got accepted to UCLA. Mom and I already talked about it. This was news to me. I cleared my throat. That's great, Tyler, but we need to discuss finances. Your college fund won't cover UCLA's out-of-state tuition. Tyler stopped dead, staring at me like I'd slapped him. Then, right there in front of everyone, he exploded. You're so cheap. You always make everything about money. Maybe you shouldn't have married someone with a kid if you couldn't afford it. The patio went dead silent. Everyone was staring, glasses frozen halfway to their lips, and then Tyler delivered the killing blow. Stop trying to control me. You're not my real dad anyway. You're just some guy who pays the bills. My hands started shaking, but I forced myself to look him in the eye. You're absolutely right. I do pay the bills. I pay for this house, the food you eat, the clothes on your back, the phone in your hand, the car you're embarrassed to drive. Since we're talking about what I pay for, Tyler, let's be clear about exactly what that includes. He scoffed and rolled his eyes. Before I could say another word, Rebecca jumped in. Don't lecture my son, she snapped. If you wanted kids so badly, you should have had your own instead of trying to replace his real father. The silence was deafening. My friends looked at me with pity and embarrassment. Rebecca put her arm around Tyler and said quietly, maybe everyone should head home. It's getting late. Not one word of defense for the man who had raised her son for 9 years. Not a single correction or apology. That night, I made my decision. The next morning, I went to the bank, closed Tyler's college account, and transferred every penny into my retirement fund. Then I called a divorce attorney. When I told Rebecca what I was doing, she was speechless. Marcus, no. You can't just walk away, she stammered, tears streaming down her face. Think about everything we've built together. Think about Tyler. You can't throw away 9 years like this. He needs you. We both need you. I shook my head firmly. What Tyler needs is his real father, and what you need is someone who will tolerate being disrespected in his own home. That's not me anymore. Her face crumpled as she tried to apologize. I'm sorry. I should have handled things differently. I should have supported you more, but... Yes, you should have. I cut her off. But it's too late for that now. Every time Tyler disrespected me, you made excuses for him. Every time I tried to parent him, you undermined me. And when I finally stood up for myself, you told me to go have my own kids. Well, maybe I will. That's when Tyler stormed into the room, his face red with anger. You can't do this. We're a family. I looked at him for a long moment. A family? What family, Tyler? According to you, I'm just some guy who pays the bills. I'm not your real dad, remember? So go find your real family. His mouth dropped open, but I wasn't finished. I want you both to understand something clearly. I'm filing for divorce because of you, Tyler. Because you chose to disrespect the man who raised you, loved you, and provided for you. And because of you, Rebecca, because you never once stood up for me. You never told your son that I was his father in every way that mattered. Instead, you let him tear me down, and when I tried to defend myself, you attacked me too. I took a step back, my voice steady and final. I'm telling you this so that next time you try to trap some other man into this situation, Rebecca, maybe you'll remember that respect is a two-way street. A marriage without mutual respect isn't a marriage at all. Tyler slammed doors and screamed. Rebecca cried and pleaded, but I was done funding my own humiliation. 6 years passed. I threw myself into work, expanded the business beyond what Jake and I had ever dreamed, bought a beautiful house in Scottsdale with a pool and mountain views. Life became peaceful. No more walking on eggshells, no more constant arguments, just work, weekend golf, and a home that actually felt like mine. Then one afternoon, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Rebecca and Tyler standing on my doorstep. Tyler looked rough, thin, tired, older than his 22 years should have made him. The cocky teenager was gone, replaced by someone who looked beaten down by life. Rebecca appeared desperate, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her together. "Marcus," Rebecca started, her voice cracking, "we need help. Tyler dropped out of UCLA after his freshman year when we couldn't afford the tuition. I lost my job during the pandemic. We're about to be evicted from our apartment." Tyler stood there silently, staring at his shoes, apparently unable to meet my eyes. I raised an eyebrow. "And you came to me because?" Rebecca's voice broke completely. "Because you're the only stable person we know. Because despite everything that happened, you were the best father Tyler ever had." I let out a bitter laugh. "That's funny, Rebecca, because 6 years ago you told me I should have had my own kids instead of trying to replace his real father. Well, guess what? I took your advice." Her face went white. "What do you mean?" "I got remarried 3 years ago. My wife Sarah and I have twin daughters, Emma and Sophie. They're 2 years old now, and they think I hung the moon. They run to me when I get home from work, climb on my lap during story time, and call me daddy like it's the most natural thing in the world." Tyler finally looked up, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite identify. Regret? Jealousy? Pain? "I know what it feels like to be appreciated now," I continued. "To have children who respect me, who value what I provide, who understand that love and discipline go hand in hand." Rebecca was crying openly now. "Please, Marcus, I know we hurt you. I know Tyler said terrible things, but he was just a kid. He was 16, I interrupted. Old enough to know better, old enough to understand consequences, and now he's learning what those consequences look like." Tyler finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Marcus, Dad, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was stupid and entitled and—" "Stop," I said firmly. "You were right 6 years ago. I'm not your real father. You made that crystal clear. So why don't you call Derek? I'm sure your biological dad would love to help you out." Tyler's face crumpled. "He won't return my calls. He moved to Oregon and started a new family. He wants nothing to do with me." The irony wasn't lost on me. "Sounds familiar." Rebecca grabbed my arm desperately. "Please, Marcus, I know we don't deserve your help, but Tyler's learned his lesson. Haven't you, Tyler?" Tyler nodded eagerly. "I have. I really have. I realize now what I threw away. You were the best dad I could have asked for, and I was too stupid and selfish to see it." I looked at both of them for a long moment, then shook my head. "You know what the difference is between my daughters and you, Tyler? When Emma spills her juice, she says, 'Sorry, Daddy,' and helps me clean it up. When Sophie breaks something, she comes to me with tears in her eyes and tells me what happened. They respect me because their mother teaches them to respect me. They love me because they've never been told I'm not worthy of their love." Tyler's shoulders shook as he started to cry. I know I messed up, but can't we start over? Can't you give me another chance?" "No," I said simply, "because this isn't about giving you another chance, Tyler. This is about the fact that you had your chance for 9 years and you chose to throw it away. You chose to hurt me, disrespect me, and ultimately reject me. And when you made that choice, you changed who I am too." Rebecca looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean that the Marcus who raised Tyler, who saved for his college fund, who would have done anything for that boy, that Marcus is gone. You killed him, both of you. The man standing here now has learned to protect himself. He's learned to invest his love in people who value it. He's learned that being a father is a privilege that has to be earned and maintained, not a burden to be endured." I stepped back toward my door. I have a family now who appreciates what I provide. 2 little girls who will never tell me I'm not their real father because they'll never have reason to doubt it. A wife who backs me up when I have to discipline them, who tells them every day how lucky they are to have me as their dad. Tyler was sobbing now. "Please, Dad, please don't give up on me." But I was already shaking my head. "You gave up on me first, son. You chose your real father over me, remember? Well, now I'm choosing my real children over you." I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. Through the door, I could hear muffled voices, Rebecca trying to comfort Tyler. Tyler's choked sobs, the sound of their footsteps finally moving away from my porch. I walked to my kitchen window and watched them get into a beat-up Honda Civic, Rebecca's arms around Tyler as he cried. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a pang of something. Not regret, exactly, but sadness, maybe. Sadness for what could have been if things had gone differently. But then I heard the sound of little feet running through my house and Emma's voice calling, "Daddy, Daddy, come see what Sophie and I built." I turned away from the window and went to find my daughters. 2 weeks later, Jake came by with a case of beer and the kind of expression that meant he had news. "You hear what happened to Rebecca and Tyler?" he asked, cracking open a bottle. I raised an eyebrow. Should I care? He shrugged. Probably not, but word gets around. Apparently Rebecca's been posting all over social media about how you abandoned Tyler in his time of need. Real sob story stuff. Pictures of him as a kid, talking about how you were his father figure for years and then turned your back on him. I felt my jaw clench. Of course she did. Gets better, Jake continued. Tyler's working at a gas station now, living in Rebecca's cousin's garage. Turns out the real dad, Derek, won't even take his calls. Kid's got nothing and nobody. I took a long pull from my beer, letting the information sink in. And Rebecca? Working at a call center, barely making rent. Apparently she's been hitting up everyone they know for loans, but most people remember the divorce and aren't buying the Victim Act. That night, Sarah found me sitting on our back patio, staring up at the stars. You okay? She asked, settling into the chair next to me. I told her about Rebecca and Tyler's visit, about Jake's update. She listened without judgment, the way she always did. Do you regret it? She asked when I was finished. Turning them away? I thought about it for a long moment. 6 years ago, I would have said yes. 6 years ago, I still believed that love was enough, that if I just tried harder or gave more, Tyler would come around. But that wasn't the problem. What was the problem? Rebecca never wanted a husband. She wanted a provider. And Tyler never wanted a father. He wanted a bank account with legs. They both made it clear that my value was purely financial. I looked over at Sarah. With you and the girls, I learned what it feels like to be valued for who I am, not just what I can provide. Sarah reached over and took my hand. The girls adore you. Because you've never given them reason not to. Because when they misbehave, we present a united front. Because you've never undermined my authority or made excuses for disrespectful behavior. She squeezed my hand. Partners support each other. Exactly. Rebecca never understood that. She thought love meant accepting any behavior from Tyler, no matter how hurtful. She thought being a good mother meant protecting him from consequences. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the Arizona night. You know, Sarah said eventually, I think Tyler learned the lesson you were trying to teach him. Just too late to matter. I nodded. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. I tried to teach him about respect, responsibility, and appreciation through words and boundaries, but he had to learn it through loss. That must have been hard for him. I'm sure it was, but that's not my responsibility anymore. I gave 9 years of my life to teaching him those lessons. At some point, you have to let people face the consequences of their choices. The next morning, while I was getting ready for work, Emma and Sophie climbed into bed with Sarah and me for their usual morning snuggles. Daddy, Emma said, her little hand patting my cheek, are you the best daddy in the whole world? I don't know about the whole world, I laughed, but I try to be the best daddy I can be for you and Sophie. You are, Sophie declared with the absolute certainty that only a 2-year-old can muster. You're our daddy, and we love you. As I held my daughters close, Sarah's arm around all of us, I realized something profound. The pain of losing Tyler, of having him reject me after 9 years, had taught me to treasure what I had now. Every daddy from Emma and Sophie carried weight because I knew how precious and fragile that relationship could be. 6 months later, I was at Home Depot picking up supplies for a bathroom renovation when I saw Tyler. He was in the electrical section, studying wire gauges with the focused attention of someone who was learning the trade. He looked better than he had at my door, cleaner, more purposeful, like he was rebuilding himself from the ground up. Our eyes met across the aisle. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Tyler started walking toward me, his steps hesitant but determined. Marcus, he said quietly when he reached me, I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I wanted you to know that I'm learning to be an electrician. I raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about consequences, about earning respect instead of expecting it. He looked down at his hands. I enrolled in trade school. I'm paying for it myself with money from the gas station job. It's not much, but it's honest work. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or entitlement, but all I saw was genuine humility. That's good, Tyler. Learning a trade is smart. He nodded eagerly. I remembered all those times you tried to teach me about electrical work, how you said it was important to understand how things work instead of just expecting them to work. I didn't listen then, but I'm listening now. What changed? I asked, curious despite myself. Tyler's voice got thick. I realized that Derek, my biological father, he never tried to teach me anything. He never showed up to my games, never helped me with homework, never cared whether I learned right from wrong. But you did all those things, and I threw it back in your face because I thought I deserved better than what you were giving me. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I know it's too late to fix what I broke. I know you have your own family now, and I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. But I wanted you to know that I finally understand what I lost, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for hurting you. I felt something shift in my chest, not forgiveness exactly, but a kind of closure I hadn't expected. I'm glad you're learning a trade, I said finally. And I'm glad you're taking responsibility for your choices. That's what growing up looks like. Tyler nodded, tears streaming down his face. I know I can never be your son again. I know I lost that right, but thank you for the 9 years you gave me. Thank you for trying to raise me right, even though I fought you every step of the way. You were the best father I ever had, and I was too stupid to see it. I looked at this young man, no longer the entitled teenager who had broken my heart, but someone who had been humbled by life and was trying to rebuild himself into something better. Take care of yourself, Tyler, I said, and maybe someday when you have kids of your own, you'll understand what real parenting looks like. He nodded vigorously. I will. I promise I will. I watched him walk away, my chest tight with emotions I couldn't quite name. It wasn't reconciliation. Too much damage had been done for that. But it was something. Acknowledgement, maybe. Understanding. That evening when I got home, Emma ran to meet me at the door like she always did. Daddy! Daddy! Look what I drew today! She held up a crayon drawing of our family, stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. That's beautiful, sweetheart, I said, picking her up and spinning her around. Tell me about it. That's you and Mommy and me and Sophie, she explained proudly. We're the best family ever. Yes, we are, I agreed, meaning every word. Later that night, after girls were asleep and Sarah and I were cleaning up the kitchen, I told her about running into Tyler. How do you feel about it? She asked. I thought about it. Sad, I guess. Sad that it took him so long to learn what I was trying to teach him. Sad that we can never get those years back. But also, relieved maybe, knowing that he finally understands what he threw away. Do you think you'll ever have a relationship with him again? I shook my head. No, too much water under the bridge, but I'm glad he's learning to be a man. I hope he finds someone who appreciates the person he's becoming. Sarah wrapped her arms around me from behind. You did everything you could for him. I know, and now I'm doing everything I can for Emma and Sophie. That's what matters now. As I turned off the lights and headed to bed, I thought about the different paths that had led me to this moment. If Tyler had never rejected me, I might never have divorced Rebecca. I might never have met Sarah. I might never have had Emma and Sophie. It was impossible to say whether things had worked out for the best, but they had definitely worked out. I had learned to value what I had, to protect my own worth, and to invest my love in people who treasured it. And maybe, just maybe, Tyler had learned something valuable too. Not soon enough to save our relationship, but soon enough to save himself. That was going to have to be enough. The next weekend, I was in the garage teaching Emma how to use a screwdriver. She was determined to help me fix her broken toy box when she looked up at me with those serious brown eyes of hers. Daddy, will you always be my daddy? The question hit me unexpectedly hard. I thought about Tyler, about all the years I had invested in being his father, only to have him reject me when things got tough. Always and forever, princess, I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. No matter what happens, no matter how old you get, no matter where life takes you, I will always be your daddy. She smiled and went back to her screwdriver, completely satisfied with my answer. And in that moment, I realized something important. The pain of losing Tyler had taught me to never take these moments for granted. Every "I love you, Daddy," every scraped knee I got to kiss better, every bedtime story, every morning snuggle, every proud smile when one of the girls learned something new, I treasured all of it because I knew how precious it was. Tyler had taught me, in the most painful way possible, that being a father isn't about biology or obligation. It's about choice. The daily choice to show up, to love unconditionally, to guide without controlling, to discipline with compassion. And it's about being valued in return, being respected, being appreciated. I had that now with Emma and Sophie in ways I had never fully experienced with Tyler, and I would never take it for granted. As Emma successfully tightened the screw on her toy box and looked up at me with pure joy and pride, I realized that sometimes the greatest gift life can give you is the chance to start over. To be the father you always wanted to be, to children who want you to be their dad. 6 years after that encounter at Home Depot, I received an unexpected email. It was from Tyler, now 28 years old. The subject line read, "Thank you." "Dear Marcus," it began, "I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. I know we haven't spoken in years, and I respect your wishes to keep our distance. But there's something I needed to tell you. I got married last month to a wonderful woman named Jessica. She's a teacher, and she's kind and patient in all the ways I never learned to be when I was young. We're expecting our first child, a son, in the spring. As I've been preparing to become a father, I've been thinking a lot about the kind of dad I want to be. And I keep coming back to you, to all the lessons you tried to teach me that I was too stubborn and selfish to hear. I want you to know that I'm going to tell my son about you, about how you showed up for me when my biological father wouldn't, about how you worked 2 jobs to make sure I had everything I needed, about how you saved for my college education and tried to teach me the value of hard work and respect. I'm going to tell him about how badly I failed as your son and how that failure taught me what real parenthood looks like. Because of you, I know that being a father is about more than genetics. It's about showing up every day, even when it's hard. It's about setting boundaries with love. It's about earning respect through consistency and kindness. I know I can never undo the hurt I caused you. I know I can never be your son again. But I want you to know that your influence on my life didn't end when I rejected you. In fact, it's only grown stronger as I've matured and understood what I threw away. I'm a journeyman electrician now, and I own my own small contracting business. Every day, when I wire a house or fix someone's electrical problems, I think about those Saturday mornings when you tried to teach me about circuits and voltage. I wish I had paid better attention then, but I'm grateful for every lesson you planted in my head, even when I didn't want to learn. I hope Emma and Sophie know how lucky they are to have you as their father. I hope they never take for granted what I was too young and stupid to value. Thank you for 9 years of unconditional love, even though I didn't deserve it. Thank you for the lessons that took me 15 years to understand. And thank you for showing me what kind of man and what kind of father I want to be. With deep respect and gratitude, Tyler. I read the email 3 times, my hands shaking slightly. Then I printed it out and put it in my desk drawer. That evening, as I was tucking Emma and Sophie into bed, they were 8 years old now, the same age Tyler had been when I first became his father. Emma asked me why I looked sad. Not sad, sweetheart, I said, brushing her hair back from her forehead. Just thinking about some things. What kind of things? Sophie asked, always the curious one. I sat on the edge of their bed, looking at these 2 beautiful girls who had never known anything but my love and protection. I was thinking about how important it is to appreciate the people who love us, I said carefully. Sometimes grown-ups forget to say thank you to the people who take care of them. And sometimes, by the time they remember to say it, it's too late to fix things. Emma frowned. That sounds sad. It can be, I agreed, but it can also be a good reminder to tell the people we love how much they mean to us while we still can. Sophie sat up and threw her arms around my neck. I love you, Daddy. You're the best daddy in the whole world. Emma joined the hug. I love you too. Thank you for taking care of us and reading us stories and fixing our bikes and making us pancakes on Sunday morning. I held them both tight, my heart full to overflowing. And I love both of you more than all the stars in the sky. As I turned off their light and closed their door, I thought about Tyler's email. There was a part of me, a small part, that felt a sense of completion. He had finally understood the lessons I had tried to teach him. He was going to be a good father because of what he had learned, both from my example and from his mistakes. But the larger part of me was grateful for the path that had led me here, to this house, to this family, to these 2 little girls who had never known anything but my devotion. Tyler's rejection had been the most painful experience of my life, but it had also been the catalyst that led me to Sarah, Emma, and Sophie. It had taught me to value genuine love and respect. It had shown me the difference between being needed and being wanted. I was needed by Tyler and Rebecca, needed as a provider, a problem solver, a safety net. But I was wanted by Sarah, Emma, and Sophie. They didn't love me because of what I could give them. They loved me for who I was, and that, I realized, made all the difference in the world. As I joined Sarah in our bedroom, she looked up from her book and smiled. Good bedtime tonight? She asked. The best, I said, settling in beside her. They told me they loved me and thanked me for taking care of them. Sarah's expression softened. They're good girls. We're raising them right. We are, I agreed, emphasizing the we. That's the difference, you know? We're a team. We support each other. We present a united front. She reached over and took my hand. Always. I squeezed her fingers, thinking about Tyler's email, about the long road that had led me to this moment. I got an email today from Tyler. Sarah raised an eyebrow, but didn't seem surprised. How do you feel about that? Complicated, I admitted. He's married now, expecting his first child. He wanted to thank me for the lessons I taught him, even though he rejected them at the time. That must have been difficult to read, I nodded. It was. Part of me feels, I don't know, vindicated maybe? Like all those years weren't completely wasted. But mostly I just feel grateful that I'm here now with you and the girls, building something that will last. Sarah leaned against my shoulder. Do you think you'll write back? I considered it. Maybe. Not to rebuild a relationship. That ship sailed long ago. But maybe just to acknowledge that I received his message. To wish him well as he starts his own family. That sounds healthy. We lay in comfortable silence for a while, and I found myself thinking about the full circle of it all. Tyler would soon experience what I had experienced. The overwhelming love of holding your child for the first time. The desire to protect and provide. The hope that you could be the father your child deserved. The difference was that Tyler would value it from day one because he understood what it meant to lose a father's love. He would never take it for granted because he had lived with the consequences of his choices. In a strange way, Maybe my pain had served a purpose after all. 3 days later, I sent a brief reply to Tyler's email. Tyler, thank you for writing. I'm glad to hear you're doing well and that you found happiness with Jessica. Congratulations on your upcoming son. The lessons you learned through our experience, both the good times and the painful ones, will serve you well as a father. Love your son, guide him with patience, and never let anyone convince you that your role in his life doesn't matter. I wish you and your family all the best. Marcus, I hit send and closed my laptop, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't expected. That weekend, as I watched Emma and Sophie play in our backyard pool, shrieking with laughter as they chased each other through the water, Sarah came up beside me with 2 cold beers. Penny, for your thoughts, she said. Just thinking about how different my life could have been, I said. If Tyler hadn't rejected me, I never would have divorced Rebecca. I never would have met you. Emma and Sophie wouldn't exist. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Do you ever wish things had gone differently? I watched our daughters, their faces bright with joy and innocence, completely secure in the knowledge that they were loved and wanted. Not for a single second, I said. Tyler taught me what I wouldn't accept in a relationship. Rebecca showed me what I needed in a partner, and you and the girls have shown me what it feels like to be truly valued. Emma noticed us talking and waved from the pool. Daddy, come swim with us. In a minute, princess, I called back. Promise? Sophie added, treading water with the determined focus of an 8-year-old. I promise, I said, and meant it, because that's what fathers do. They keep their promises. I pulled off my shirt and dove into the pool, emerging to the delighted squeals of my daughters as they launched themselves at me for a water fight that would last until the sun set and Sarah called us in for dinner. And as I played with Emma and Sophie, throwing them into the air and catching them as they squealed with joy, I realized something profound. The greatest revenge against those who didn't value you isn't bitterness or anger. It's building a life so full of genuine love and happiness that their absence becomes irrelevant. Tyler had once told me I wasn't his real father. He was right. I wasn't. A real father would have been bound to him by biology, unable to walk away no matter how he was treated. But I had been something better, a chosen father, a man who decided, day after day, to love and provide for a child who wasn't his blood. And when that choice was thrown back in my face, I found the strength to choose differently. I chose to find people who would choose me back, and in the end, that made all the difference. Years passed in the comfortable rhythm of family life. Emma and Sophie grew into remarkable young women. Emma pursuing engineering like her old dad, Sophie discovering a talent for writing that reminded me of her mother's intelligence and creativity. They both worked summer jobs to contribute to their own college funds, understanding the value of earning what they received. Neither of them ever questioned my love or my place in their lives. When Emma brought her first boyfriend home for dinner, she introduced me proudly as my dad, the man who taught me that I should never settle for someone who doesn't appreciate what I bring to the table. When Sophie won a writing contest in high school, her acceptance speech thanked my parents, who showed me that real love is about consistency, respect, and showing up every single day. They had learned the lessons Tyler couldn't or wouldn't absorb. One evening, when the girls were both in college, Emma at Arizona State studying electrical engineering, Sophie at Northern Arizona University majoring in journalism, Sarah and I were cleaning up after dinner when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi, Marcus. This is Jessica, Tyler's wife. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. Tyler gave me your number in case of emergency, and I wanted to let you know that our son Michael was born this morning. 8 pounds, 6 ounces, healthy and perfect. Tyler has been telling Michael stories about his first dad, about Saturday morning pancakes and Home Depot adventures. I thought you should know that your influence on Tyler's life continues through his parenting. Thank you for the foundation you gave him, even when he couldn't see its value. With gratitude, Jessica. The message included a photo of a tiny, red-faced baby swaddled in a blue blanket. I showed Sarah the text. She smiled softly. That's beautiful. How do you feel? Happy for them, I said, and realized I meant it. Tyler learned the lessons he needed to learn. Maybe not in time to save our relationship, but in time to be the father his son deserves. And you learned your lessons too, Sarah pointed out. You learned to value yourself, to expect respect, to choose people who choose you back. I nodded. Everyone got what they needed in the end, just not in the way anyone expected. Later that evening, I drafted a response to Jessica. Dear Jessica, congratulations on Michael's birth. Thank you for sharing this news with me. I'm glad Tyler is passing on the positive memories from our time together. Being a parent is the greatest privilege in life. Cherish every moment, even the difficult ones. I wish your family health, happiness, and years of love and laughter together. Warmest regards, Marcus. The next morning, I received a phone call from Emma. Dad, I wanted to run something by you. My professor is looking for guest speakers for his ethics and engineering class. Would you be willing to come talk to them about the importance of integrity in business? I'd be honored, I said, my heart swelling with pride. Great. And Dad, thanks for being such a good example of what it means to do the right thing, even when it's hard. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen, drinking my coffee and looking out at the backyard where I had once taught Tyler to throw a football, where I now watched Emma and Sophie play whenever they came home from college. The same space, but filled with completely different energy. Where there had once been tension and conflict, there was now peace and mutual respect. Where there had once been demands and entitlement, there was now gratitude and appreciation. I thought about the young man I had been when I first met Tyler, eager to prove himself as a father, desperate to be needed, willing to accept almost any treatment as long as I could maintain the relationship. And I thought about the man I was now, secure in his worth, surrounded by people who valued him, no longer afraid to set boundaries or walk away from those who didn't appreciate what he offered. The journey from one to the other had been painful, but it had been necessary. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sophie. Hey Dad, quick question. Do you still have that old toolbox you used to let me help with when I was little? I'm writing a piece about formative childhood memories, and I want to make sure I get the details right. Of course I do, I laughed. It's in the garage, same place it's always been. Still has your tiny pink screwdriver in it. Perfect. You know, Dad, I was just thinking about how lucky Emma and I are to have parents who actually wanted us. Some of my friends at school have such complicated relationships with their families. It makes me grateful that we've never had to question whether we were loved. After we hung up, I realized that Sophie had unknowingly identified the core difference between my relationship with her and Emma versus my relationship with Tyler. Sophie and Emma had never had to question whether they were wanted. Tyler had spent years wondering if he measured up, if he was worth keeping, if his real father might come back and reclaim him. That insecurity had manifested as defiance and entitlement, but underneath it had been fear. Fear that he wasn't enough, fear that love was conditional, fear that he could be abandoned again. I had tried to provide security through consistency and devotion, but Rebecca had undermined that security by constantly making excuses for his behavior and failing to establish him as a permanent part of our family unit. She had kept one foot out the door emotionally, always ready to defend Tyler against me, rather than presenting us as a unified parental team. Sarah and I had never made that mistake. From the beginning, we had been clear with Emma and Sophie that we were their parents, that our love was unconditional, and that our family was permanent. But we had also been clear about expectations, boundaries, and consequences. The result was two young women who felt secure enough to be respectful, grateful enough to be appreciative, and confident enough to be independent. It was a formula I wished I had understood 20 years earlier, but I was grateful to have learned it when I did. That evening, as Sarah and I took our nightly walk through our neighborhood, she brought up Tyler's new son again. Do you think you'll ever meet him? Michael? I shook my head. No, and that's okay. Tyler and I have both moved on. We've both learned what we needed to learn. There's no animosity left, but there's no relationship either, and that's appropriate. You don't feel like you're missing out on being a grandfather? I smiled. Emma's been dating the same guy for 3 years, and Sophie's found someone pretty special too. I have a feeling I'll get plenty of opportunities to be a grandfather with kids who will know me as grandpa from day one. Sarah squeezed my arm. You'll be an amazing grandfather. I hope so. I certainly learned a lot about what not to do. As we walked, I thought about the full circle of life, about how the pain of one relationship had led to the joy of others, about how the lessons learned from failure had contributed to later success. Tyler would raise his son with the knowledge that fatherhood was a privilege to be treasured, not a burden to be endured. He would understand the importance of respect, gratitude, and appreciation, because he had lived with the consequences of not providing those things. And I would continue to enjoy the fruits of the lessons I had learned, the daily joy of being valued, respected, and genuinely loved by my family. In the end, we had all become better people through the experience, even though the cost had been high. Sometimes that's how growth works, through loss, through pain, through the hard-won wisdom that comes from making mistakes and living with their consequences. As Sarah and I turned back toward our house, I could see the warm light glowing in our windows, could imagine the comfortable life waiting for us inside. A life built on mutual respect, genuine appreciation, and the kind of love that doesn't need to be demanded because it's freely given. It had taken me 44 years to find it, but it had been worth the wait, and I would never ever take it for granted. 2 months later, Emma called with news that made my chest swell with pride and joy. Dad, I have something to tell you. Jake proposed. Jake was the young man she'd been dating through college, an engineering student like herself, with a good head on his shoulders and a genuine respect for our family. That's wonderful, sweetheart. When's the wedding? Next spring, after we both graduate. And Dad, we want you to walk me down the aisle. Jake says he can't wait to officially call you his father-in-law. As I hung up the phone, I thought about another father-daughter moment years ago when Tyler had declared that his real dad would have understood about wanting a BMW instead of a Honda. Now I was preparing to walk my actual daughter down the aisle to marry a man who respected me, valued me, and considered gaining me as a father-in-law to be an honor rather than an inconvenience. The contrast was stark, and it filled me with gratitude for the path my life had taken. 6 months after Emma's engagement, Sophie called with her own news. "Dad, I got the internship, the one at the Phoenix New Times. That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. Remember when I was 12 and wanted to quit writing because my teacher said my essay was too emotional? You told me that emotion was my strength, not my weakness, and that I should never let anyone convince me to write without passion." I remembered that conversation, remembered Sophie's tears, remembered telling her that the best writers were the ones who felt things deeply and weren't afraid to share that feeling with the world. "You were always meant to be a writer, sweetheart. I just helped you see it. Well, my editor says I have a natural instinct for finding the human story in every piece. I think I got that from watching how you treat people with respect and genuine interest in their lives." After we hung up, Sarah found me sitting quietly in my study, with a small smile on my face. "Good news?" she asked. "The best news. Our girls are thriving. They're becoming exactly the kind of adults we hoped they would be." Sarah settled into the chair across from me. "You know what I love most about Emma and Sophie?" "What's that?" "They never take you for granted. They never expect you to provide for them without appreciation. They understand that love is a gift to be treasured, not a right to be demanded." I nodded. "That's because you've always supported me in teaching them that lesson. We've been partners in parenting from day one." "And look at the result," Sarah said, gesturing toward the photos of our daughters that lined the bookshelves. Two confident, grateful, loving young women who will probably raise their own children with the same values. As I looked at those photos, Emma at her college graduation, Sophie winning her writing award, both girls hugging me tight with genuine affection and respect, I realized that this was what success looked like. Not just professional success or financial success, but relational success. The success of being truly valued by the people who mattered most. It had taken losing Tyler to teach me what I wouldn't accept in a relationship. It had taken divorcing Rebecca to show me what I needed in a partner. And it had taken finding Sarah, Emma, and Sophie to show me what love looked like when it was freely given and genuinely appreciated. All of it, the pain, the growth, the second chances, had led to this moment, sitting in my study with my wife, surrounded by evidence of a life well lived and relationships well built. For the first time in decades, I felt completely at peace with every choice I had made, including the hardest one of all, the choice to walk away from Tyler and Rebecca, to value myself enough to demand respect, and to believe that I deserved better than what they were offering. That choice had changed everything, and I would make it again without hesitation because it had led me home.